Hello and welcome to another Friday flight. It's me, Original Penguin. Thank you for joining me. Things are going to be a little bit different this time. I'm going to be starting with the presentation, and then we'll be moving over to the... Ooh, see my OBS window then. And then we'll be moving over to the... Then we'll be moving over to some of the more flighty content. So yes, thank you all for joining me. This is potentially the last one I do for a little while, as I'm looking at changing up some of the content that I do. Anyway, so I guess I better make a start. Welcome to the third Penguin Original presentation. This one will be slightly different to the usual, as I'll be mixing live gameplay with the presentation. Fingers crossed nothing unexpected happens, like my yoke system not being recognized by Microsoft Flight Simulator, which is, yeah. Anyway, unlike the previous two, if you have any questions, I'll answer them during the presentation when I reach an appropriate moment. And for those of you who aren't aware, I am currently sat at KOGD, which is Ogden-Hinckley, parked in a Cessna 152, and instead of the usual IFR that I would do during a presentation, we're actually going to be flying some very simple VFR maneuvers and encouraging a variety of interactions from the in-game controller. So first of all, what is air traffic control? The definition provided by the FAA, the Federal Aviation Authority, is the purpose of air traffic control worldwide is to prevent collisions, organize and expedite the flow of air traffic, and provide information and supports for other pilots. So let's break that down. Prevent collisions. You'd think this could never happen as there's so much sky and planes can fly wherever they like, right? No. There are aviation equivalents to highways, and I'll get to those a little bit later. And airplanes are required to stick to these unless told that they can deviate from them by an air traffic controller. Air traffic flow. This means making sure people can get to where they are going, be it on the ground or the next VOR or wherever, as quickly as possible whilst remaining safe. Provide information support does what it says on the tin, and we'll get to see that in action very soon. But we need a history lesson now. After 2 years of redevelopment, Croydon Airport presented the world with the very first purpose-built terminal and control tower, which you can see in this picture here. Alongside that, Croydon was responsible for the Mayday International Distress Call and established Britain's first national airline, Imperial Airways. For those of you who aren't aware, there are two distress calls within aviation. You have Mayday, which is said thrice, Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. And you have PAM, which is also said 3 times. And PAM, PAM, PAM. Mayday means there is an emergency. PAM it's similar to Mayday, but it's not as urgent. It's to say, you know, I need you to be aware of this. It's important, but it's not life or death. Whereas Mayday call usually means that it's life or death. For example, you might use PAM to say, I should have written this in my script. Mayday would be something like an engine fire. PAM would be something like a passenger has fallen ill, for example. Over the pond in America in the 1930s, more aircraft were fitted with radios and airways were becoming more congested. As a result, the very first airway or air route traffic control center opened in Newark. The air route traffic controllers didn't have direct radio communication with the airlines at the time, so they would use the telephone to communicate with airport traffic controllers, airline dispatchers, and airway radio operators to relay instructions and messages to and from the aircraft. The early tracking and the early tracking system involved recording the aircraft location on a blackboard and putting pins into maps. So what do aircraft controllers actually control? Most manned airports have 3 areas of air traffic control, those being air control, ground control, and flight data and clearance delivery. The busiest airports in the world may have additional roles, but I'm just going to focus on these main 3. Air control, also known as local control or tower control, manages the active runway or runways. For a landing plane, they're responsible right up until they turn off of the runway. For departing airliners, once airborne, the tower will instruct the pilot to contact the local air route traffic control center. Shortly, I'll show you exactly what this looks like. Ground control. This is a lot more complicated than you might think at first. Ground control doesn't just manage aircraft, but all vehicles in the movement area of the airport. Welcome, Fifi. Ground control gives clearance to taxi, move around the airport, and sends particular vehicles to aircraft. It also directs landed planes onto a ramp or parking with the help of usually a ground marshal, and I'll describe those very shortly. Flight data and clearance delivery gives instruction and permission for the route the aeroplane plans to fly. Usually this clearance is sought before taxiing. They will also provide the pilots with weather and airport conditions and any time restrictions. Flight data can involve things like pertinent weather changes, outages, and runway closures. Oftentimes, this data will be presented using ATIS or ADIS, which we can hear in action in just a second. Oops. So, let's take a quick break from this, and we're going to see some of these things in practice. First of all, I'm going to show you a quick... I'm going to quickly show you what ATIS sounds like. Hey, Ruben, thanks for joining me. Let me find flight sim. There we go. Okay, so you're going to get to hear ATIS. So first of all, I need to turn the aircraft on because right now we do not have a radio, a working radio. So we turn the battery master on. And you can see here, tune Ogden ATIS. Okay, I'm going to, if I can work out whether, there it is. I'm going to try and do this one manually. So we need to go to 125, 125, 550.
Ogden Airport information, Golf 1700 Zulu. Wind 318 at 8. Visibility 10. Sky condition, few clouds at 500 feet, few clouds at 4,200 feet, few clouds at 11,900 feet. Temperature 6. 2.10. Altimeter 30.19. Visual runway 21 in use. Landing and departing runway 21. VFR aircraft say direction of flight. All aircraft read back hold short instructions. Advise controller on initial contact you have, Golf.
Okay, so that will actually be on repeat. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the aircraft battery back off so we don't listen to that over and over and over and over and over and over again. So lots of information was given there. So I'm going to break down some of what you heard. So first of all, the main thing is you would have heard the weather. And it reports any key weather changes. It does this once every, roughly, most airports it does this once every 15 minutes. It will update the weather report. Depending on airports, some airports won't have all of this information done automatically. Some of them will have it done when you contact the tower, which is the air control. But this one says which one is the active runway. So today we're going to be using runway 21. Says the wind, the temperature, the current pressure, and you need the current pressure because that is how you set your altimeter. So if I look at my altimeter, and there we go, if it stops mucking about, my altimeter calibration knob is 29.92. The radio operator, well, not an operator, sorry, ATIS told me that the current pressure in this at this airport is 3001. And as you can see, as I change this, it changes my current altitude on the altimeter. Right, and quite often they'll also have some more information about frequencies that you can use to get hold of them, or it could be, for example, that this airport is only manned between certain times, and that would also be broadcast. In fact, if we have a quick look at... I still have it. Oh, there we go. Right, this is the airport I'm currently sitting at. It is the airport I'm currently... Yes, this is the airport I'm currently sitting at. Okay, Dre, I'm going to answer your question. So you said, do you fly in real life? If not, would you be able to if they gave you a plane tomorrow? So first of all, if they gave me a plane tomorrow and said fly it, they'd be breaking a lot of aviation laws. And if I decided to fly it, I'd be breaking a lot of aviation laws. Could I fly a plane? I have flown a plane before. I've flown a plane a few times. No jets, just prop aircraft. I don't know all of the laws. I don't know all of the requirements. I could get by. I could land a plane if I needed to. I don't know. If it was a situation where pilots are unconscious or something, I could probably, as long as there's nothing wrong with the aeroplane, I can't see why I wouldn't manage to get it set down with the help of an air traffic controller, which is also what they're there for. They also offer support for those who need it. But yes, to answer your question, it would be illegal for me to do so. But I could probably manage because I have experience flying in the past. One thing I don't know is I really struggle with air navigation charts. So yeah, I'd just be flying around the airport and I wouldn't really go anywhere. Yes, I appreciate that, Dre. Okay, so this is the information for the airport that we're currently sat at, which is Ogden-Hinckley. And if we have a look, where is it? Okay, so if you remember, I had to tune to 125.550 for ATIS, and you can see that just here. You can also see the ground communication and tower. And it says next to this 0700 to 2000. These two figures are the times that it's manned. Outside of those hours, there is no air traffic controller, and you would need to announce things. So, for example, if I was coming into land, I would have to announce. I can't remember what my tail number is. It should be Penguin 1123. So I would say over the radio, Penguin 1123 on final, landing runway 21, for example. And that is because the communications are all recorded, and they need to be for investigative purposes in case anything should happen. So if I suddenly crashed, they'd be like, hang on a minute, he didn't even say that he was going to land, it's his fault. So there we go. Right, okay, so we've heard ATIS. Now I'm going to show you a small... I really love this, by the way. I cannot take credit for this. This is NATS. NATS is the UK's... NATS is the UK's air traffic control organisation. And they have got a fantastic presentation, a real-life situation where it shows you how the various air traffic control is used. So I'm only going to show you some of this because I don't own this isn't my content. I didn't make it. I can't claim credit for it. But if you're interested in watching the rest of this or interacting with the rest of this, the link is in the description.
Delivery, good morning. Shell to Lima, 320 on 501 with PDC. DQNH 1032 is copied, fully ready.
Air Shuttle to Lima, good morning. Hold position, contact ground 121.850. Bye.
Opposition 121850, Shuttle 2 Lima.
So right now she would have changed over to the next frequency. She would have changed over to ground, and now she requests
Good morning, Shuttle 2
pushback.
Lima, request to push.
Shuttle 2 Lima, stand at 501, push start approved, facing to the east.
Push start approved, face east, Shuttle 2 Lima. Shuttle 2 Lima, request taxi.
Shuttle 2 Lima, from 501, following the greens for Pluto.
So what that means by follow the greens is follow the green lights on the taxiway, which you can just see. You can probably see very faintly there. And then she
Green
carries
to
on
Pluto, Shuttle 2
with a
Lima.
readback. Fast forward a little bit until they speak again.
Shuttle 2 Lima, one to the tower, 118.7, good day.
1187, Shuttle 2 Lima, bye. Shuttle 2 Lima, hold Alpha 3.
Okay, so the departures tower. So she's now the pilot is now in contact with the tower. So she's going to get clearance to take off. However, the tower has told her to hold short of the runway at Alpha 3. Alpha 3 is just here. So she'll read back.
Shuttle 2 Lima.
Taxi up to Alpha 3 and hold there until she's told that she can move ahead.
Shuttle 2 Lima, behind departing company Airbus ahead of you, line up and wait, 27 right behind.
So what you can't see right now in this graphic, and it's such a shame it's not there, is there is another aeroplane on the runway that is taking off, currently taking off. It's probably sat right here as soon as the controller says that, but it has already got its clearance to take off. And so what they've said is wait for that Airbus to depart.
Behind the company Airbus ahead, departs, line up and wait. Behind Shuttle 2 Lima. Shuttle 2 Lima, clear takeoff, runway 27 right, surface wind 280 degrees, 5 knots.
Okay, so they've got their clearance. She's told her what the wind direction and wind speed is. They will already have this information. However, Tower will give the most updated and correct information.
Cleared to take off, 27 right, Shuttle 2 Lima.
Okay, and then off she goes. At this point, she's been completely communicating with Heathrow Airport, with the various controllers within Heathrow.
Shuttle 2 Lima, contact London 119.775, good day.
And now she's being handed over to the air route traffic controller. So these people manage the airspace between airports, and the London terminal control is actually based in Swanwick.
119.775, Shuttle 2 Lima, bye.
At this point, she's following a pre-planned route out of the airport's airspace to make sure that she's not flying too low over buildings or to avoid any obstacles, or because it's a particular wind is making it more efficient for planes.
Good morning, Shuttle 2 Lima with you. Webben 3 Golf, passing 2,700 feet, cleared to 6,000 feet.
Okay, so what she's doing there is she has just spoken to the London control, and she said who she is, Shuttle 2 Lima, the current SID that she's flying, so that's the departure route that she's flying, which is called Woburn 3 Golf, passing 2,700 feet. That means that she is currently just going past 2,007 feet, and she's cleared to 6,000 feet. So she's giving the controller her intentions.
Good morning, Shuttle 2 Lima, maintain altitude 6,000 feet, fly heading 005 degrees.
So what's happened now is the air traffic, the air route air route traffic controller has told her that carry on going to the altitude that you have already planned. However, I want you to fly in this direction now. And that may happen for a variety of reasons. It could be that on that particular day the air route is congested, so they need planes to fly different air routes. There's all sorts of different reasons that it could be. Sometimes it's just to make things a little bit quicker. They might say you can fly own navigation, fly direct to, for example. There is so many different reasons why they may decide to change the direction in which they're flying. So anyway, so that's just showing you a real life situation. This has all been from transcripts. It's actually been recorded into recorded with actors. I'm sorry, I'm really struggling with my words today. And yes, Dre, to answer, to respond, air traffic controllers have some of the most stressful jobs. I'm going to show you in a second. Once we're off the ground, I'm going to show you just how many aeroplanes air traffic controllers have to deal with. First of all, I'm going to show you where we are. This is where we are. This is the airport we're at. Everything except for runway 21. So where's runway 21? Right, that's runway 2, so... Oh, sorry, that's runway 3. There's runway 21. Okay, so this stretch of runway is being controlled by the air controller. Everything else here is being controlled by ground. So I'm going to request clearance to taxi to runway 21, depart straight out, or I might fly traffic pattern depending on the time. And then once we have gotten clearance, I'm going to pause it and I'm going to show you some more of the presentation. So let's go. Put this over here. And we're going to turn on the... you're going to hear the radio again.
Ogden Airport Information Hotel 1700 Zulu. Line 319er at 7. Visibility 10. Sky condition, few clouds at 500 feet, few clouds at 4,200 feet, few clouds at 11,900 feet. Temperature 6. Dew point 10. Altimeter 30.19er. Visual runway 21 in use. Landing and departing runway 21. VFR aircraft say direction of flight. All aircraft read back hold short instructions.
Okay, so I've just tuned to ground so that I don't have to listen to that over and over again. Okay, so let's go ahead and request clearance to let's remain in pattern. So we're going to remain in pattern. We're going to come back. We're going to do a touch and go, and then we'll fly off. And yeah. So this would be
Ogden ground Cessna 112 ready to taxi, touch and go with hotel.
Cessna 112 taxi to and hold short of runway 21 via taxiway Delta Charlie Alpha. Contact tower on 118.7 when ready.
taxi 2 and hold short of runway 21 via taxiway Delta Charlie Alpha. Contact tower 118.7.
Taxiing hold short runway 21 using taxiway Delta Charlie Alpha Cessna 123.
Okay, so let's go ahead and push back. I'm going to do this the easy way because it takes forever to do it the hard way. Right there, buddy. Oh, I need to turn off my parking brake. Also, at this point, I just want to say thank you all for joining. So, Dre, to answer your question about the voice being in the game, there is no voice chat. There is no multiplayer voice chat in this. So, if they have been doing air traffic control, it's via something else. There are on Flight Sim X, an earlier version of Microsoft Flight Sim, there was the ability to be an air traffic controller, but unfortunately not in this title. Okay, so we've got permission to taxi, so we're going to follow the taxi route that they have excuse me, that they've defined. Today is really calm and lovely. I did a tiny flight. Also, this place, I want to thank Robin for suggesting this airport. She's a real pilot. Yeah, she's a real pilot, and I asked her what was a good airport to take off from that manned with a nice view and has an unmanned airport nearby that I can land at. Oh dear, got a little bit quick there. And she suggested Ogden-Hinckley. Oh come on, get out of the way. Really, I shouldn't be taxiing right behind him like that, but I don't want to take 20 minutes to get to the runway. I do own Flight Sim X, and I tried playing it actually. Going back to Flight Sim X after playing this is a bit like playing PES 98 or something after playing FIFA 21. I don't even know if there is a PES 98. But I know there was a football game that was out on the PlayStation 1, but that's what I mean. I'm looking forward to getting these rudder pedals, because then I won't have this janky steering. I really do risk making the plane flip with the way that I steer my wheel. Slow down. Okay, so we're told to taxi to and hold short of the runway, so we're almost at the runway. I'd like to point out a real pilot would never taxi this fast. Okay, so here's our hold short point, and we've kind of overshot it a little bit. Never mind. Now I'm going to ask the tower to give me clearance to take off and remain in traffic pattern. So it'll be Ogden Tower, Penguin 1123, requesting clearance, requesting takeoff, runway 21, remain in pattern.
Ogden Tower, Cessna 1123 ready at runway 21, touch and go.
Or not.
1123 cleared for takeoff, runway 21 right, touch and go, approved.
Okay. Let's go ahead and get ourselves.
Runway 21, Cessna 123.
Get ourselves in line with the runway. I'm going to put on a notch of flaps. Get rolling. Normally I would, at this point, I would stop and make sure I've done everything, but I know I've sorted everything out. I'm going to go ahead and take off. Way! A little bit too heavy on my rudder there. Okay, so we're going to rotate. Go. And we are off. Right runway heading. Go. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead now and pause this. Ah, the sound's still going. I wasn't expecting that. There we go, sorted. I'm going to turn this off. I'm going to go back to the presentation quickly. Okay, so after leaving my plane hovering just a couple of 100 feet from the ground, we should probably talk about airspace, traffic, and holding patterns. Airspace is defined as the air available to aircraft to fly in, especially the part subject to the jurisdiction of a particular country. That's according to the Oxford English Dictionary. So what does that actually mean? Because I could barely say it. You can think of airspace as a territory. It's a bit like the fence around your garden. However, instead of a physical barrier, this is lines drawn on a map. A country's airspace extends to an unlimited altitude, but the practical limit is the Kármán line, which is roughly 100 kilometers above sea level. That's generally the accepted border between the atmosphere and outer space. The UK's airspace is made up of 3 FIRs, Flight Information Regions, which are the responsibility of the CAA, the Civil Aviation Authority, and within those FIRs, the country is broken up into smaller structures. These structures are also called airspaces, and they can be one of 5 classes in the UK. Class A, IFR only. Now that would mean we couldn't fly IFR because I'm flying a VFR plane. Class C, well, I'm flying VFR, that's why. Class C is for IFR and VFR. Pilots need to request clearance to enter a Class C airspace. Class D, IFR and VFR, pilots need to request clearance and they're required to stay below 250 knots if they are under 10,000 feet. Class E, IFR and VFR, but IFR need clearance whereas VFR doesn't. And Class G, planes may fly as they like whilst following noise abatement laws. These are uncontrolled airspaces. So let's take a quick look at Ogden-Hinckley. I can find where it is. There we go. This is an air navigation chart. And this here is Ogden-Hinckley. This is the airport that we just took off from. Don't know if I can bring this map, VFR map over to you. There we go. See, there's one runway. There's the other one. If I go back over to my browser window, see the long runway, short runway. This gives some more information on that particular runway, but particular airport. But what you can see here is this dotted blue line. That is the airport's airspace. Once I'm out of that airspace, I enter more airspace, and these airspaces are divided up into even more airspaces. Look, this airspace, airspace, airspace. These are all and they form parts of larger airspaces, which forms part of the whole country's airspace and FIRs. There we go. Behind us, we've got an Air Force base, and their airspace is ever so slightly creeping into ours. Oh, I say ours, Ogden-Hinckley's. Can you see that blue line? This doesn't extend into a full circle. Anyway, there you go. That's what our airport's airspace looks like. So, whilst we're here, I'm going to quickly talk about traffic and holding patterns. Now, I don't know the holding pattern for this airport, I'm afraid. I would need to actually, I'd need to read some of the documentation for the airport, and I just couldn't find it. Also, usually air traffic controllers will tell you what to do to be put into a holding pattern. However, the traffic pattern for any runway tends to be the same. It tends to be a series of left turns. So we've come off runway 21, which is this runway here, and we would turn left, 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 and then left. I can either come in and land, or if I don't plan to land, I fly parallel to the runway. And that would happen with this as well. They might be at separate altitudes, because obviously how can you have two runways? Let's say, for example, there's two runways that are parallel to each other. How can you have them both flying the same traffic pattern? It could be that they fly at different altitudes, and maybe one's slightly bigger than the other one. Anyway, there we go. So let's me double check that yeah. So we're going on to quickly talk about how air traffic controllers speak. You'd be forgiven for thinking that air traffic communications are really complicated and technical, but they're not. And actually, they're specifically designed so that they're not. They can't be. They mostly use the phonetic alphabet to spell things, such as tail numbers, and a special pronunciation with numbers. Most of their communication can be quite simple when broken down into its various parts. On the right side of the screen here, you can see a transcript of Malaysian Airlines Mike Hotel 370. I'm just going to quickly flip through some of the things that are said here, and then we're actually going to listen to some live radio chatter, only quickly, and then we'll go back into the flight. So, starting at the top, we've got Tower, Mike Alpha Sierra 370, morning. Morning isn't necessary, it's just, at the end of the day, these are people, it's nice to be polite. So he's contacting the tower, he's reading out the flight number. They probably would say this as Malaysian Airlines, but it's written as Mike Alpha Sierra. The air traffic controller replies, Mike Alpha Sierra 370, good morning. Lumpur Tower, holding point, garbled, that was not a great line to use. Line up, 320 Alpha 10. Okay, so I believe these are taxiways. I think he's saying to line up with a particular taxiway and to follow those. Cleared for takeoff, nice and easy. He has permission to take off. Good night, as in I'm done. Thank you, bye. Then he contacts approach. By the way, if you're wondering where you know MH370, that is from 2014. It is the Malaysian airline that disappeared, and it's believed to have crashed. And funnily enough, whilst I was looking up information on MH370, it just happened to be that they've within the last week, they may have found a way to find the plane. So, anyway, as you can see here, the stuff here is actually quite serious. So, maintaining level 350, maintaining flight level, as in I'm staying at this altitude. So, let's go ahead and listen to some actual live. We're going to listen to some live air traffic chatter. Should we go over to Australia? I don't know whether the Aussies are up. We'll go over to the US. Ah, yes, this Hawaii. This...
03-7 is given.
You can see just how busy this is. There's so many planes, and if I zoom out a little bit, yeah, you can see why this is a very stressful job. But we'll see if we can. We'll see if we can hear any particular plane make communication and then possibly find that plane or helicopter. There are some.
Jet 7.
What?
Do you know what the current HF freaks are eastbound?
Ultra Jet 77.
They're not feeling particularly talkative today. However, if you're interested in looking at this, I have put a link to this AirNav radar box in the video's description. I really recommend checking out because it's quite fascinating.
Ultra Jet 7.
Go ahead.
Ultra Jet 7 primary 8843, secondary 5574.
All right, 8843 and 5574. Thanks a lot.
Okay, so he's just been passing on some frequencies that have been requested.
Frequency change approved. Okay.
So we've got 20 minutes left. I think it's time we head back to the flight. And, oh, I've opened my map far too wide. We're going to head back to the flight. And we're just going to carry on. We're going to do a little bit of flying. I've got to check I'm still in control of this airplane. Let's pause it. That's fine. We're going to fly traffic pattern. As I told you, a series of left turns. I'm actually going to bring up the map here so that you can see what it is exactly. Apparently I'm turning already anyway. Make a nice gentle turn. We should be able to see. Yep, there we go. You can just about make out the airport over there. Wait. So right now we should be flying downwind. Because the wind is behind us. Turn left again. Question, am I enjoying Resident Evil 7 so far? I was wondering whether a Resident Evil 7 question would pop up in this stream. No, I'm terrified of it. No, I'm not enjoying it. But I am enjoying that lots of other people are enjoying it, so I'm carrying on with it. I'm more than happy to never touch that game again, but everyone else seems to enjoy it, so we've got to stop climbing here, especially if we want to come in and do some touch and go. Good for you, Drax. Good for you. Oh, looks like we're joined by another player. I wonder if we can spot them. All the way up there. Didn't realise I left my flaps up. That flaps down even. So we're currently flying flying parallel to the airport. And we're still climbing.
Cessna 123 cleared touch and go right traffic runway 21. Wind tree 15 at 7.
Cessna 123, clear touch and go right traffic.
Clear for touch and go runway 21 Cessna 123.
So, the airport is now currently off to our rear. So we're going to make a start on our next left turn. The lovely mountains there. Over to our left. Runway over there. I'm going to bring the flaps back up, back down, sorry, and I'm going to reduce power because we're going to need to start descending. And I'm going to go ahead and move the map out of the way.
County 423, contact approach 18-3.
Oh, I didn't realize I still had that going. Apologies. Let me close that. We are getting ourselves nicely lined up with the runway. So don't forget, what we're doing here is a touch and go. I'm not going to be doing a full stop landing at this airport. I'm hoping to fly.
Tower, generic November 484 Juliet, 12 miles northeast inbound visual runway 21 approach. Generic November 484 Juliet, Ogden Tower. Cleared visual runway 21 approach. Altimeter tree 0.20, wind tree 18 at 6.
So basically what that means is once I hit the runway, I'm going to power back up and we're going to take off again.
Cleared visual runway 21 approach, generic 84 Juliet.
I don't know what you're on about. I'm right. I'm in front. Hey ho. Not my responsibility to make sure there's no airplanes behind me. We're coming a little bit high, but that's okay. we don't need the full runway to stop because we're not going to be stopping. We're actually just going to be touching the runway and then taking off again. You would do touch and go in a real life situation usually for training pilots and possibly for aerobatic maneuvers. There are a couple. It's not something that, like, for example, an airliner would. There's no real need for an airliner to do touch and go. Okay, so we are. I'll show you from the side. There we go. And we flare. Oh, no, we're not going to flare. Flare. And then we take off again. Sorry, my bad. I forgot that would happen. I just broke my landing gear. And then we take off again. That was silly. Yeah, I know. I nearly crashed. Well, apparently that's what you guys want to watch anyway. Apparently someone landed right behind me. So I'm going to cancel the landing intentions now because we've done our touch and go.
Ogden Tower, Cessna 123, cancel landing intention.
Cessna 123, your cancellation is received.
I don't know how much time we've got, but I'm hoping I can actually go fly to another airport, which is currently unmanned. I do plan to come off though because I want to catch Vivi's stream. Say goodbye to Ogden-Hinckley. Going down a little bit. Bring our nose level. Okay, I'm happy with that. That's pretty good. Pretty good.
Traffic, Cessna 112, 20 miles south, 5,500 feet, inbound to land runway 35.
Okay, so I've just announced, this is an unmanned airport that I've just spoken to announce that I'm coming in to land. Done a little bit early, but we'll see whether or not I do land there. As I said, I'd like to come off before the o'clock so I can catch some of the other great content that's out there. Before I do end this stream, just in case I end it earlier than I expect to, I'd like to say Be sure to catch me tomorrow night at 9:30. I'm going to be streaming Resident Evil 7 again. I actually thought I was completely done with that game, but apparently not. And on Monday evening, potentially, I might be doing my first double stream with my partner Zach. I would love it if you all would join me and my partner. It should be a brilliant experience. I'm not sure what game we're going to play yet, but I'm looking forward to it. I don't think I'm going to make it to this other airport. I'd also like to at this time take the time to thank you all for joining me. Again, I apologize that is probably the last Penguin original presentation I'm going to do for a little while, just because I'm looking to change up how I present my content. But that's not to say that I'll never do any of them again, because I know a lot of people were really looking forward to the physics of flight presentation. Now, a lot of people were looking forward to that. You can watch Zach instead of me. In fact, during the stream, I'm going to have both of us. We won't both be up at the same time, but I'm going to have it so it alternates between the two of us. Go ahead and turn my thing. I'm not even interacting with it, so there's no point in my camera being on. Can't wait to have eye tracking on this game. It'll be so amazing. I don't have to keep using the mouse. In fact, once we have eye tracking, I'll never need to use the mouse on this game again. Honestly, it's fantastic having Toby. It really is fantastic. Oh, I know what I can do. We can get there a little bit quicker. We're a little bit too close there. There's no point coming in like that. Okay, there we go. So I better announce that I'm now on final. And I need to reduce my power.
Bravo Mike Charlie traffic Cessna 112 tree is on final runway tree 5 to land.
No, Vivi, you can't do that in real life. That's why I keep forgetting that I can do it on this bloody game. No, I know. Okay, so we got 2 minutes. Let's see if I can touch down before those 2 minutes are up. Powered descent. Let's get lined up with the runway, because we're not very in line, are we? Oh, we've just hit the o'clock. Right. So thank you all for joining me. I'm going to finish this landing, then we're going to head over to Movie Stream. It's been a fantastic time, and I look forward to seeing you all next week for another Friday flight. Come on. Come on. So again, thank you very much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Oh, off I go. Bye.